So Blizzard has announced that in patch 10.1.5, at some point this summer, there will, in fact, be a new Evoker Augmentation specialization that will focus on buffing allies by performing a combination of DPS rotation and maybe some targeted abilities as well. Let's take a quick peek at it. All right, so you can see right here, what's the Augmentation Spec? It's a new damage dealer role with a twist. They use the essence of the black and bronze dragonflights to amplify the abilities of nearby allies. The playstyle for this new spec involves empowering your allies with a variety of beneficial effects. Some can be cast directly on your allies, while others are tied to you using damage-dealing abilities effectively. Augmentation evokers deliver their damage in a wholly unique way, acting as force multipliers, increasing their group's capabilities and damage output significantly. Rolling down a little more, certain augmentation abilities, see the examples below, either buff your whole party or specific members. Many of these have smart or proximity-based automatic targeting, enabling you to maintain focus on the battlefield and enemy selection. You'll still be able to target specific party members if you desire. However, there's plenty of freedom to bolster your allies as you see fit. And you can kind of see the animation here. Like other Evoker specs, Augmentation makes use of familiar capabilities like spending essence, using your mobility, and making good use of empowered spells. And again, you can see the graphic here of one of their spells right here, Upheaval, and they talk a little bit about how using Upheaval, Eruption, etc., Breath of the Aeon, some of these new abilities that'll either be cast or empowered will buff allies, granting primary stat. It'll extend the primary stat buff. It looks like there's another one here that can buff tanks, another one that can give speed buffs. So I'm not going to get into that detail here. So my thoughts here are, I really think this is going to be a slippery slope. I think it'll be fun, interesting, and hell, just absolute hell to balance and put even more pressure on players to conform to some kind of meta. So what do I mean by that? Well, WoW is a game that's so exhaustively theory crafted that either the new augmentation spec will be amazing or terrible. And let's be real, whichever way it goes, first of all, there will be no accepting any substitute, right, among the community. But let's be real, because it'll be the new shiny thing that an entire .5 patch is going to have to hang on, they're going to make sure it's really good. So then it'll get to a point where the devs have to look at giving other classes an augmentation like spec, because suddenly everybody's going to want one. And if you don't have one in your group, or if you don't play one, it's going to be difficult to get in. So now, first of all, if they start looking at other classes, total side note, I have to say, I've been thinking this needed to happen for a little while, right? So good candidates would basically be all the pure DPS classes. I really feel like where WoW has evolved to, there's no excuse and no real reason for your class to only be able to perform one group role, right? So you think about back in Legion when they revamped the spec identities, I really do feel like some specs had too much of their class identity parsed out in order to give them more of a spec identity. So, you know, if this ends up being some kind of new overpowering meta, kind of getting away from the Holy Trinity and going to kind of a foursome of roles here, this could be the beginning of seeing things like Bard-like specs for rogues that we've heard the community kick around in discussions, or maybe Warlocks with some kind of Dark Oath support spec that maybe replaces Affliction, or yeah, I'm just kicking out ideas. Maybe a Mage, with the case of mages, maybe Arcane spec becomes the support spec, or for hunters, I know survival just seems kind of cursed ever since they converted it to an official melee spec. So maybe this is their chance to turn that into a support spec through their melee DPS rotation. But really, the point of having augmentation specs is now you're suddenly going to want to fill a group, not just with, like I said, that holy trinity of MMO roles, but you'll instead want to have 4 roles represented across 5 players in any given dungeon, which I've learned from playing other MMOs like Final Fantasy XI or DC Universe Online. It just kind of makes groups harder to fill, and then it makes classes and group comps harder to balance. So, don't get me wrong. I think it's good to try this. WoW's, it's nearly 19 years old, and this is definitely going to freshen things up. It just makes me nervous, and I really think the devil's going to be in the details, when they tune things. So I'm excited, certainly interested, but nervous for sure. So what do you think? Go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know. Love to see the discussion. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more great content. And check me out on Twitch most evenings.